any band could ever hope for. We absolutely love you, but the police will not let the show go on because there's going to be an accident here. Yeah, I know. I'm totally with you there, but we cannot. Look, everybody just step backwards, please. Don't fucking push, just move backwards. Do you want to see more of dogs? We all love dogs, but we want to see a play, so please do not push. Let's see this show through. Come on, do it for the band, just don't push. Everybody step back and let's see it through. We're going to play a nice chill one. This is for the lads out there. Just chill out, no trouble, get on with it.
Now sitting shivering, facing the place cold I'ma just come from. Trouble brew and not wouldn't belong. Back with the boys, go spin in the park with the freezing Alex and the pine out. Bite like cowboy, eyes like mischief, a posse on push bikes looking for business. A top in flight formation takes the memories away. Like little pretenders to the old extenders are Ronnie and Richie craze. Praise to the honour of the old must stop. Play for the better off life. Till a distant war drums on the inside. What's up with Paul? It's pulling out all night. Right, and here's that. Right, policy off your face if you think that's good. You see, Swan mate, not a West Side Story. Put a fucking knife away. They'll bang you up for the rest of your days. He looks at me with the devil in his eyes. Are you on my side or are you mechanized? Don't need you no more. I'm better on my own with a stop. You left me in the road. And it's up in fine formation. See the old gentleman around. Like little pretenders to the old extenders. You ain't no gangster sound. I fought too hard, so you're skinny behind your kind. None is a pro-life. Till the distant war drums in the inside. As a boat to the broadcast pulling out at night. He's given up on life. Oh, that's stupid. Take the old reason away. Like little pretenders to the old extenders, running to a better day. Play to the old of the old must stop. Play for the better of life. Till the distant war drums heavy inside. What's up with Paul? He's feeling out of life. And I'm feeling inside.
Was it Ultra came to our dressing room, say hello, and he said, all right, lads, so what's happened to your career? And we were like, yeah, I don't know really. I can remember our AR guy, Gilmore, coming down to our rehearsal and literally saying, you guys, you know, have got to give us some hits, basically. Got to give us your next singles or half a record or something give me something I can take back to the label, is what he said. Well, not that we knew what it meant, but, you know, to save your skin, essentially, was what he was saying. And, you know, and we were in the position of, you know, we'd just come off tour. We had odds and sods, you know, stuff that you put together in sound check and then, you know, on acoustic and, you know, when you get the chance. And we'd not yet sat down to work on anything really, I don't think. And we had that time over Christmas into January to demo, you know, and that was we just didn't have enough time to get anything back to them. to save ourselves. So there, there's obviously a big clear out being done by Universal at that point, and we copped it, probably along with a bunch of others. I should think.
Do I remember knowing whether it was coming? Yeah, I think I felt it was coming for sure. And it was just a real shame, because, as I said at the start, I thought we'd made it, being very naive and what have you. And I thought that we were going to make it as a band, and it just felt like a complete letdown when things were going to shit.
We're all it was like being dumped by a girl that you really like, but the relationship was toxic, so you're ambivalent about it. But you're still gutted. Have you ever seen Never Ending Story? The whole film, they're trying to escape the nothingness. It's like this blackness that's taking over the whole world and swallowing it up. So yeah, it was that. So it was an empty nothingness feeling. It was sad, but we weren't ones to mope. So we just carried on. Here's to the lonely old soldiers, eh?
Weller always said to us, "Don't worry about the label. They're just banks, basically. All they do is give you money, make money off it. Don't worry about them." And he's right.
By now, Paul Weller had not only become a fan of Dogs, but also a friend. And as well as offering advice and support slots, he gives the band time at his Black Barn studio for them to start piecing together and recording demos with his producer, Charles Reese.
We saw Weller's old man, and I remember we all went into the office just to say thanks. And Weller's old man wasn't impressed at all that Paul would let us have it for free, and he told us as much, which is hilarious. But what we can do.
Songs that were recorded here are Waiting for the Gun, Clean Yourself Up Boy, Tracy, In Your Own World, Dance Boy, Monday Man and Piranhas. Whilst the band are busy recording at Black Barn and honouring their tour dates, there is a fan in the frame that would prove to be very beneficial to Dogs.
Dogs were first introduced to me by somebody called Eva Eigenstiller, and she's the girlfriend of my good friend and the guy who became my business partner in Innsbruck, and we opened the Weekender Club together. She was living in London at the time and was really into alternative, indie, whatever you want to call it, music. And she loved Dogs. She was really into them, and she was going on me about how brilliant they were. So I went along, it must have been 2005, to see them play on her at a gig on her recommendation. And, she loved them. And I say straight away, I knew I loved them. They were a great band. The energy, the style of music, everything about them was ticked my boxes. So yeah, I liked them straight away. And so it's all thanks to Eva. And at that point, of course, they were still signed to Island Records. They were just another band that were of the many at that particular time. But yeah, that I really liked.
I think the first time we met Justin that I can remember was when we went out to Weekender. We had this booking to play out in Austria, which we were all quite surprised by. We're like, whoa, you're going to pay for us to go out and play in Innsbruck. And that was great. We were all very excited. And then, so I think the first time I met him was when we got there, and he took us out to dinner and stuff. I can remember still thinking, where's the catch? I was a bit suspicious. I thought, what's going on? But he was a big fan of the band, and the lovely little club, Weekender Club there. And I remember going the dressing room backstage, pretty much having the best rider that we'd ever had. And there was like a a big tower of Jägermeister, and a big fridge full of beer, not a warm slab of Stella as usual, but so we were quite impressed. And he seemed like a sort of nice enough chap, bit of an accountant vibe. You know, he was a bit dorky, but he treated us very nicely and really enthusiastic. So, seemed like a good guy to me.
One weekend, it was a bank holiday weekend here. We put Dogs on. We were a new club. There was a bit of a buzz going on about the club, but we didn't know at the time how many people would show up. And we hadn't even got a proper ticketing thing in organised at that point. So we just used like tombola, cloakroom tickets as people paid to come in. And the capacity of the venue was 400. Well, using these tombola tickets, we lost count at 500 people paying to come in. I think it went to something like 520, 530 people actually came to that gig. You couldn't move. It was rammed. It was brilliant. And the show was fantastic.
After this extremely successful gig, Dogs returned to the UK, and after discussing the pros and cons, they decided to sign for Justin's brand new label, Weekender Records.
I formed Weekender Records in 2006 when the manager of a band called The Bishops, a guy called Grant Box, they came out and played at my club right near the beginning of 2006. And when they were there, he said to me, "We've just signed a deal with 1234 Records for the UK. Would you be interested in putting out their record in Europe?" So I said to him at the time, I said, "I've never had a record label, but I like the idea of it." So he said, "Well, look, let's work on this together." So we formed Weekender Records together. I mean, that guy, Grant Box, didn't stay with me for very long because he wasn't very good. but it was the start of the label. I then took on board a guy called James Abner, and soon after a guy called Gordon Keane, who'd been in a Scottish band called Eugenius or Captain America. He toured Europe supporting Nirvana. He was really knew a lot about the music scene. And so I set up with their help, Weekender Records in Chalk Farm in London. I mean, for us, it was a new thing having a record label. Not myself, James, or Gordon had never run a record label before. The guy, Grant, who I started it with, he'd never run a label before, but we sort of found our way through it. We were properly a small independent label. I mean, we signed up quite a few bands and we had a lot of fun, but it was never a successful label.
I remember that we didn't have many choices. Well, we didn't have any choices. At that time, it was getting, because the thing is, we were also getting worried how much time was elapsing. We'd lost quite a bit of momentum at that point. And so with getting dropped from Ireland and all that time period, we were anxious that so we were losing more and more. So we were hungry to grab the deal. You know, we just wanted to make another record and get it out.
Can't remember us discussing that much. I just think that we were all so desperate to get a deal that we had to, and we didn't have any other options because, you know, our manager didn't seem to push anything and didn't seem to go after anything, which really annoyed me. And I know annoyed Rich as well, which is why we were toying with the ideas of getting other managers or another manager.
You know, I definitely didn't think we're in safe hands here. Just that, thank fuck it's not over, you know. And this, you know, this is going to be probably hard work, a different sort of thing, you know. Yeah, I knew it for what it was, you know. Knew that he was the guy that did exactly what he did, you know, set up his own label. You know, I think it was just like, thank fuck we can make another record. Let's hope for the best about everything else.
I do remember I went to meetings with Roger Morton at Black Book Management, who was, of course, their manager and Razorlights at the time. But I think we spent most of our time talking with his wife, who seemed to run everything relating to dogs. I don't remember her name, something like Reen or Rita or Ria. But anyway, she was the one who we did most of the dealings with when we signed them.
It's around this time that Dogs decide that from now on they are going to take over as much of the day-to-day running of things themselves. Both Ricky and Richie are at the end of their tether with Roger, and they move to change managers, but they are outvoted by Johnny, Duncan and Luciano, who vote to keep Roger, predominantly out of loyalty. A move with the aid of hindsight all three agree was a mistake. They sporadically recorded for the second album with Steve Musters at both Razor and Moloko Garden Studio while still playing gigs, and they even performed at the V Festival alongside Paul Weller. A total of 15 tracks were recorded around this time, and they included This Stone Is a Bullet, Trouble with Honesty, Chained to No One, Stay There, Forget It All, By the River, Little Pretenders, which actually had the working title Motor Cunt because the band felt it sounded like a Motorhead song, The Case, On the Bridge, Who Are You, Winston Smith, Dirty Little Shop, Let It Lay. These Days was also recorded, but it isn't listed in these sessions. Werewolves is listed, but no recording is known to exist from these sessions. Stay There, Trouble with Honesty and The Case all become B-sides, but also recorded around this time is a song titled Grantchester Meadows, and this recording has never been released on any format.
Young man on a let's go to the fellow. He's rapping on a window, wondering if anyone's home. He has the memory of a legend locked inside an attic. Oh, but for the courage of the man who kicked the abyss. Won't have war, won't have peace, can't stay in touch, no release. There's got to be a better way to run on in. It's just a bit lonely.
All songs recorded at Black Barn are omitted from the final cut of the Dogs' second album, but they are used as B-sides and extra tracks for future single releases, as well as 2 other songs, Werewolves and an acoustic version of Soldier On, which were recorded by Mark Waterman at Gun Studios. They also get to work filming their next video, and it proves to be a very different affair.
We were in a sort of limbo state, and we didn't want to lose momentum, so we wanted to get Soldier On out there. So I think we decided, probably led by Dunk, to record ourselves the video, and I think it was Dunk's idea to do the sort of selfie stick thing, which worked great, you know. And actually we all liked doing it after the experience of Ireland and doing those bizarre videos that cost 35 grand, you know, doing it ourselves and getting a mate to edit it, produce a better video. But yeah, I think that DIY element certainly came from us just trying to be proactive and crack on.
Here's to the lonely old soldiers. Here's to the lonely old soldiers.
As well as filming their video, Dogs drafted in a friend to edit the footage, and they even decided to design the artwork for this single and their future releases. Of course, the enemy can't wait to trash the single and publish another scathing review, daubed in the usual sea of dog puns, along with the usual digs about dogs being dropped and average. The Dogs officially signed for Weekender Records in October 2006, and just over a month later, on the 13th of November, they released their first single from their upcoming album. The first single charts very poorly, but the band are not phased, and Dogs continued to gig up until the end of the year, and neither the band nor the fans show any signs of weakening. In fact, their loyal following of fans are becoming even stronger.
Let's just go to Winston Smith. Somebody who had a bit of a rough time. jam never tasted so good, and nothing ever felt so warm as you above this old world shop with its soul. Oh, well, trinkets suck. How dare we even think it? When there's a cardboard box with shivering feet full of distant memories of nearby fantasies. Good heels and cashmere socks as I call around the world. Oh, that's what I heard. I opened up, told her I'm lonely. I said, don't you know me? She said, who you talking to? Her memory's faded, eradicated. She's been infiltrated, but oh how I waited, because I know there's something I just can't get to it. I wasted years, and now I held you there. I tasted fear, and now I held you there. And I fought the combine, so they led me outside. It was pretty as a picture.
It's 2007, and in typical Dogs fashion, this is set to be an extremely busy and eventful year. Dogs step back into the studios to add the finishing touches to their tracks from the upcoming album, and it's not long before Dogs upload a video of them performing on a tea break at Razor Studios, and the fans are blown away, and many presume this to be their next single.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Had it with the traffic boy, all the jams getting up your nose, all the red lights stopping you, getting through the system. Oh, there's a place where the traffic don't go. Just about 8:30, start knocking back the alcohol. Careful abandonments, down the local establishments, where the girls don't care for cultural elegance. Around about 9:30, when you no longer care for time, stop messing with your white lines. Nights do die, you never on your own. It's the kind of trust that never takes you home. Where the phone rings impatiently, the letterbox snaps insatiably. I think I learned in the wars. I think I learned in the wars.
Dogs are in fact already filming the video for their new single, and it's not England's in the Wars.
When wind blows through a space window, they've got regrets and nowhere to go, with a smile on our faces to the marketplace. We never had any innocent minds. For retribution we were too of a kind. When the college boys fired, well, our conscience expired. Oh, it was alright to see you run away. It's always alright to say the boys again. Right! And what they never learn is ignorance habitual. It makes your stomach turn, will get you on the way home. Now these young conservatives shit out rascs and bibs on parliamentary futures. We've got fruit that'll suit you. To top it all, you get a pellet in the wall right next to your head. God help us all if they graduated. We swap stones for their lead. why they never learn. It's ignorance habitual. It makes your stomach turn. We'll get you on the way home. Yeah, we'll get you on the way home. And this stone is a bullet. This stone is a bullet. And this stone with the bullies. This stone with the bullies. Oh, this stone is a bullet. This stone is a bullet.
Well, we only did our sort of little performance in our church, and the production company recorded the rest of it separately. Yeah, just underwhelming, amateurish. I just don't like it at all.
On the 26th of March 2007, Dogs released their next single, but despite a sizable budget being spent on the video and some favourable reviews, the single sadly fails to chart. This doesn't receive the usual panning from the NME, but that's because they seem to have made the choice, for now at least, to totally ignore Dogs. The following Friday, Dogs play their sold-out gig at the Mean Fiddler, and the crowd are blissfully unaware that Dogs are now struggling to get their music noticed and back into the mainstream.
Cheers. This one's for Big Jim. Fucking legend. This is called Charlie.
Dogs start work on the video for their third single from the new album, and it's a return to what they do best, playing loud and playing live.
Okay, listen, everyone listen for 1 second. We're going to be doing the camera entrance from over there again. So when we come through, you really need to let us, we're going to push through you, basically. So let us divide a little bit. We're going to come right up to this singer here.
Dogs travel back out to Innsbruck and play another sellout gig at the Weekender Club, and it's a special night as this was to be captured and pressed to vinyl, though sadly not for nearly 10 years. Dirty Little Shop is released on the 18th of June 2007, 1 week ahead of the new album, but the video for the single struggles to find airtime, so again makes very little mainstream impact. Tall Stories from Under the Table is released on the 25th of June and is promoted with some funny made up quotes, but hilariously the band are threatened with legal action, so the quotes are immediately removed. Of course the Enemy bash it, but what is quite shocking is they not only bring out the badges again, but they lie and say the badges were in response to a bad review, which is blatantly untrue. They go further than just marking the album as a poor Jam parody and take a swipe at Paul Weller's appearance on Let It Lay, just for good measure. To coincide with the release of their album, they join Gary Crowley and appear on Rockwell TV, where they play a fantastic acoustic set of both their older tracks and their new ones, and again the fans get to hear a superb rendition of England's in the Wars.
Have you had it with the traffic boy? Are the jams getting up your nose? Yeah, are the red lights stopping you from getting through the system? Oh, there's a place where the traffic don't go. At just about 8:30, start knocking back the alcohol with careful abandonment down the local establishment. Yeah, where the girls don't care for culture or elegance. Around about 9:30, you no longer care for time. Start messing with your white lines. Life's too long, you're never on your own. No, no. It's the kind of trust that never takes you home. Where the phone rings impatiently, the letterbox snaps insatiably. England's in the wars. England's in the wars. Trust that never takes you home. No. It's so nice to know you're never on your own. Where the phone rings impatiently, that letterbox snaps insatiably. England's in the wars. Oh, England's in the wars. England's in the wars.
As well as a few radio slots, the band again appear on Sky Television, and this time it's an electrified set, filmed and broadcast by Channel M. Some fans felt Johnny was stoned in this show, but anxiety was kicking in and exhaustion from more relentless touring.
It's the same. What we do is we get in a van and we drive up and down the country, over and over again.
You seem knackered, don't you? You're all right, man.
I'm knackered.
A glass of water.
We've done...
Do you have a glass of water as well?
No, I'm all right.
Right?
I'm all right. Make it drink vodka tonic. I'm fine.
Despite the coverage on Sky Television and the great reviews, Dogs just can't seem to get any mainstream coverage, and this of course affects album sales. The live scene is still amazing, and nothing proves that more than the next show at the 1234 Festival.
We had our own stage there. The sort of second main stage was Weekender Records stage. So we had most of our bands playing, but the headliner was Dogs. But the day of the festival, which was a free festival, they were anticipating about 5,000 people there. And it was a beautiful hot day, and they completely underestimated. And in the end, they say there were at least 15,000 people turned up. And by the time Dogs went on, our stage was a marquee, which had a capacity of about 1,000, but at least 2,000 to 3,000 people were trying to get in. And it was completely rammed, and they lifted up the sides of the marquee, and as far as you could see, there were people trying to get in the heat and everything like that. And Dogs went on and did a great show. But the problem was the security and the security barriers, the fencing and stuff, just couldn't handle the numbers. So it was all a bit sort of edgy, and it was quite chaotic.
I actually said to the bouncer, and there was only one bouncer or one, whatever you want to call him, one security guard. And I said, mate, that fence is not gonna, that barrier is not gonna hold our fans. And he's like, oh no, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. And I was like, seriously, man, that is not gonna hold our fans. You're gonna have to be careful. And he said, no, it'll be all right. So I was like, okay, fine. Don't say I didn't warn you, kind of thing.
And then at one point, the police came up and looking for the organizer or who was responsible. And I was the only one standing on side of stage with any level of responsibility. So the police just turned to me and said, this has got to stop. You either go on stage and get the crowd to calm down, or we're pulling the plug. We are not going to allow this show to go on. So I tentatively went on stage and just tried to calm the crowd down. I took the microphone over from Johnny in between a song and I told them, please, to calm down, move back, give people space, etc.
Every single bouncer or security guard from the festival came to our gig and was trying to hold the barrier up.
It didn't really work. I mean, everyone knows what it's like at a great gig, but the police were able to accept that I'd tried, and we were all standing on the side of the stage, police, me, a few other people involved, waiting till the end of the show, and it was proper punk. It was great. It was a fantastic show. And to be fair, Dogs were amazing, as they were every live show, and they didn't stop anything. They played it full on right to the end. But we got away with it, and that was great.
Listen to me, look. You are the best fucking fans any band could ever hope for. We absolutely love you. But the police will not let the show go on because there's going to be an accident here. Yeah, I know. I'm totally with you there, but we cannot. Look, everybody just step backwards, please. Don't fucking push, just move backwards. Do you want to see more of Dogs? We all love Dogs, but we want to see a play, so please do not push. Let's see this show through. Come on, do it for the band, just don't push. Everybody step back and let's see it through. We're going to play a nice chill one. This is for the lads out there. Just chill out, no trouble, get on with it.
Now, and a shivering face in a place cold home I just come from. Trouble through and not where it belong. Back with the boys go spin in the park with the freezing Alex and the pine out. By like cowboy, eyes like mischief, a posse on push bikes looking for business. And the top man fly formation takes the memories away. Like little pretenders to the old extenders are running and Richie craze. Praise for the honour of the old bus stop. Play for the better off life. Till the distant war drums heavy inside. What's up the pole? It's pulling out of the night.
Though the band are feeling exhausted, they continue on and play the various festivals in the UK, and it is noted that they have amassed quite a following in Europe, so it's decided that they are to go on tour. So they set off, but all too quickly it becomes extremely stressful for the band members, and soon they are at loggerheads with the record label and its own adjusting.
We were an indie label. They were a big band, relatively. For us, they were a big band, and we were losing a lot of money. The shows were doing well, but they were still small fees. We weren't selling enough records. We were definitely down on the band a good, I'll say, hypothetically £100,000, but I think it could even have been a lot more than that. We were minus on the band, but they were doing well in Germany. They were really doing, they were really starting to do well. So we put together this tour, or the German office put together this tour of Germany. They were playing decent sized venues, anything from sort of 500 to 1,000 people a night. Most of the shows were selling out. And it was looking good, and the momentum was there. But there was a problem, and the problem was with their tour manager, a guy called Sweeney. He had been their tour manager, as far as I know, for quite a long time, and he failed to understand That's the way I see it. That we were just a small indie label, not as he was used to, a major label. And I remember we being in our office when the budget came through for this German tour. And it was so unrealistic to our budget, what they were asking for in tour support. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's something like £25,000 or something wanted in tour support. And these were for shows that, even though they were sold out, the income from them was going to be very low, relatively, compared to that sort of figure. So there was negotiating, there were things taken out of the tour budget that were, we just couldn't stretch to. So things like hotels became guest houses or smaller places. Tour bus went from being a big tour bus to a smaller one. Anything we could do to keep the budget down. And so the tour went ahead, no problem. They would say the shows were great, they were selling out, they were doing well, and they were getting a great reception.
Well, it started to go wrong because we felt that we were being mistreated, to be honest. We had to use other people's shit equipment. He was cutting corners and scrimping and on various things. Like, again, it's an indie label and stuff, but we were in like a shit little van that we could barely fit in. We couldn't get all our equipment with us, so we had to hire stuff that just wasn't up to scratch.
The problem we faced with Dogs in particular was the fact that they come from Island Records, so they were used to big budgets, and they didn't understand that we didn't have the funds to be able to just go and splash out on videos and big PR events and things like that.
Perhaps coming from, the previous tours when we were on Ireland, and we were spoiled, but I don't think so. I think we were at a stage where we should have been in a proper bus with proper equipment and not sleeping in sort of spunk-stained fucking duvets in youth hostels, which is what was starting to happen. And we were, what the fuck is this? Like, literally disgusting.
I do remember one night staying in this, basically what was a converted mental asylum. It was fucking terrifying. We were sleeping in what essentially were cells. Me and Johnny always used to share. And we walked in there, and the reception was like the you see One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now they have where Nurse Ratchet hangs out, where they dish out the medication. The reception was that, and like it was obviously that. And then our room was basically a cell with a tiny little window at the top, the TV in the other corner. The TV was like about that big, and 2 beds, and it was disturbing. It was so fucking weird. But that's what Justin was willing to pay for.
It got to a point where Andy Sweeney, who our tour manager, who really, really had our back, fucking funny top bloke, used to be in a band called the Engineers. He lost his rag with Justin. Justin came backstage. We were just getting ready to go on stage, and they had a little row about something stupid and petty, or it was whatever it was. It felt like Justin thought, because I'm the boss, I have the right to just walk in and say whatever I like, whenever I like. There was an issue, and Sweeney said, "Get the fuck out of the dressing room."
There was an incident in Berlin. I mean, they just used to piss me off because the managers were fucking brilliant. I was really fond of the managers, and they were great. And then it was kind of like every time that the record company seemed to turn up, they just seemed to like try and completely take the tour over. And the dressing rooms, and there was this, they would fucking show up, and it used to really get on my nerves. But obviously, that's not uncommon for me to be like, asking, the label. You have to facilitate it. It's part of your job. You can't just say, well, you fuck off, you're annoying me. But I did.
Because we wouldn't allow within the budget a paid person to sell merchandise, the tour manager, Sweeney, wasn't even getting the merchandise out at the shows. They weren't selling any. And we'd had all these T-shirts and I can't remember, quite a good range of merch set up, ready for the tour. And night after night, they weren't selling any merch at all. He just wasn't selling it. So there was starting to be conversations between the German office and Sweeney about why this wasn't happening. But it didn't. Anyway, so by the time they got to Berlin, I was there with them. This was the first date I went to on that tour. And we, again, definitely a sold out show. I was DJing that night and we had an intern, really nice young girl. And she, at some point, she was obviously aware of this whole merch situation. She went up to Sweeney and said to him, "Would you like me to help you do merch tonight?" He just turned on her. He absolutely bit her head off and swore at her and had a real go at her. He was obviously upset that he hadn't got the budget to have a proper merch person, but he took it out on this poor young girl. So she was in floods of tears. She was really upset. The manager, Daisy, of our office there came over to me in the DJ booth and said, "Look, you've got to come and sort this out because we've got a big problem now." So I went over, I found Sween. I had a go at him, telling him that's really not, I wouldn't say I was polite. I was quite forthright with him to say you couldn't talk to an unpaid intern like that when all she wanted to do was help. And we just wanted to get merchandise available for sale. We needed it. Anyway, I got into quite a heated discussion with this guy, Sweeney. And in the end, he banned me from going in the backstage area, which was absolutely ridiculous. As I was the label and I was effectively paying for the whole tour to take place and him. But when it got to a point where it got so heated, I said to him, "If you're not prepared to do merch and not prepared to support us as a label as well as the band, you're not going to get paid for this tour. We won't pay you because you're not doing your job properly." The band played the show. It was a good show, as all were, but there was obviously a little bit of tension in the air. Johnny then said that they'd spoken with Sweeney and he's quitting the tour. He's taking them back. He's going to drive back to London that night. The last two shows, they're cancelling them. They're not going to do them. He says if he's not going to get paid, he's not going to tour manage any longer for them. And I said, look, if you don't do these last two shows, which are sold out, it's going to cause major problems. We're already losing a fortune on you. I said, then you're off the label. I can't carry on with the label if that's going to be the attitude. The next thing I knew was the band had gone, left to go back to England. And that was the last show they did. And they were no longer on Weekender Records.
Whether he said that or not, well, that's what we meant anyway. It's not, "Oh, we're going home, but we'll see you in a few weeks for another tour." That's what we meant. If we were leaving the label.
I think Johnny and the rest of the boys, especially Johnny, was on my side and was like, no, fuck them, they did take the piss. Now, obviously, the conversation that I had with manager was like, look, I'll leave. I don't think I've got the word. I'll do it. Much it'll break me fucking heart out to work with the lads. And, they're just impossible to work with. They don't understand how it works. And they just like, I didn't like any of them. I didn't like a single fucking person from the whole camp. There's nothing that I could have done that would have made them, not be arrogant fucking arseholes. You know what I mean?
We didn't have any money, and part of touring, part of the budget is, and it's not much, it's like fucking 15 quid a day or something for us to get sort of food and refreshments or whatever. And he didn't want to give us that. And Sweeney, who was very loyal, fantastic guy, he was fucking furious.
It was a nasty little thought, and we deserved at least the basics, to promote music, and we went after like amazing riders and being treated like princes, just the basics. So then that, plus that little row with Sweeney. And again, I didn't really know what had gone on with Sweeney, but we were all extremely tight with Sweeney, and he doesn't lose his rag easily. He's very diplomatic, very clever, and he fucking lost it and said, "That's it, bollocks." So we just had his back.
But I'm very grateful for him doing what he did for us. He had good intentions, and without him, we wouldn't have had that second album. However, they fucked a load of shit up, and it wasn't entirely his fault because he didn't know what he was doing.
Dogs returned to the UK, but feelings within the band are becoming fractured.
I think we were all a bit disillusioned at that point, obviously, because, we'd had a rough ride. We dropped from Ireland, the struggle of getting another deal, and then that relationship sort of weekend disintegrating. Everyone was a bit on edge and a bit fucked off. I remember that was a point where we were arguing a lot with Rich, internally, and with each other quite a lot. But I mean, there's a lot of infighting in the band about stuff. We're all knackered.
By this point, Dogs are pretty much dealing with every aspect of their career themselves, as relations with their manager Roger have by now fizzled out totally, and again they find themselves without a label. For much of 2008, Dogs go back to gigging, and there is good news for fans as their planned fourth single, Chained to No One, is now gifted to them via download. But soon Dogs are to face even more bad news when Richie announces he is to leave the band.
I'm half the man that I wanna be, but it's the other half coming on quite fast when I wash that long-haired man away from me. Now this house gone out fancy, yes I say. There's nobody home, he's left the lights on, he's down the street singing abuse at everyone. And when the morning comes, it takes away his charms. And there's a battered and bruised, bloody and knackered and laughed upon. Yeah, but he's chained to no one, no. So it's time when yes I say, well I take a J, a U, an N, a K, an I, a A. I don't wanna play anyway, no. Oh it's me, yeah you know me. I could fall in love with anyone. It's a section union, not an Napoleon. And when the morning comes, it takes away his charms. It was a battered and bruised, bloody and knackered and laughed upon. But he's chained to no one, no.
Yeah, I just don't think he got on with the band. I think him and Johnny had issues between them, and I think it's just because they didn't respect each other, and that caused a lot of problems between them, between the band, and they just didn't see eye to eye, and then. Yeah, I don't. It's a long time ago, so I don't really remember. But I do remember the night that he left. He just stormed out of the rehearsal room, and then walked down the road. And I went running after him and saying, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he says, "I'm leaving." I'm like, "Come back," and he wasn't. He wouldn't come back. So that was that, and that was when it all ended, really.
Yeah, Rich was a problem. Rich was a stick in the spokes quite often, because he he came into the band last. And had, like I was saying, he wasn't quite on my mission of everything is equal and we're all on the same ride to achieve a certain thing. There was some underhand tactics by him, some sly whisperings with management and little deals on the side that we found out later. And then there was the issue when he left the band, which I'm not sure if we're going to go into, but certainly Rich wasn't really on the team as much as I believed.
Yeah, it was like my best friend. It was like my best friend, and then it all cut off immediately. So it was pretty tough. I didn't like it, and I didn't like the fact they just walked out and stuff like that. Thing is, people can sit down and talk about stuff, and that's what got me, because it was just throwing toys out the pram.
Rich jumped a sinking ship. Simple as that, I think. He and he made out there was other things, or that he was just not interested. Like it's like any relationship where the person that wants to leave hasn't quite got the courage to tell the truth, and makes up that you're the fucking problem, or engineers issues and conflict. So if that happens, and then you're like, what the fuck are we fighting about? And then when they leave, realize, you know what I mean? Like they didn't simply have the courage to say, I'm doing this, or I'm for this reason. They engineer issues until you believe that it broke down for that sort of way. I remember he ran off halfway through a rehearsal once because he had a little row with Luciano about a drum part or something. It's completely bizarre and out of character. But I got the sense that something was happening and that he had his hand on another branch, which he did.
Me and Rich fell out over something that we probably won't mention. And we had a few arguments here and there. We generally got on all right. But, I found him a bit of a fan. He was very much obsessed with looking cool and not that bothered about warming up and practicing and playing a good show.
He basically, I think, texted the band and said, lads, I've got to tell you something. Should we all meet up at the pub? We all knew what it was. I thought that's, it was the least you should do after spending a few years together in such sort of tight and such a tight relationship like that, to tell someone face to face that you're leaving them. But we thought, yeah, fair play, mate. And over a pint, we said, look, totally understand. He said, I'm just tired of the fucking gigging and everything and the slog, and I'm worried about where it's going. And so I'm going to go and concentrate on other things or design or whatever he was going to do. I'm not going to do music anymore. So we all shook hands like men, like mates, and said, fair play, man, and then so immediately the next day we arranged, I'm going to say it, immediately the next day we arranged to audition other drummers. And then got to the studio, the first guy's ready to come and rehearse, and our like £2,000 Ludwig drummer kit that was bought for us by the label for the band had disappeared. And the guy that ran the studio said, oh yeah, Rich came and picked it up earlier. Which was confusing, considering he's not going to make music anymore and it's not his drum kit. And he knows we were rehearsing other people that night. So we drove round, knocked on the door, there was no answer, had a look through the letterbox being done, and there's the drum kit in the middle of his hallway. And so we banged on the door harder. Eventually he came to the door and opened the door with the chain on it. This is Rich, our mate, we've made 2 albums with, right? That I spent days going around the clock at festivals on fucking ecstasy together with, you know, talking deep shit. Like Ricky was best mates with that. The day before, we'd all shaken hands with the agreement that he was going to go and do his own thing, or we were going to find another drummer. And he says, "What do you want?" We're like, "Why have you got the drum kit? We need to get the drum kit reversed." And people were like, "Now, people waiting." And he wouldn't let us in. And he said no. And so me and Doug got pretty furious. Didn't quite believe what was happening. Started trying to push the door in. He muscled it shut and locked the door. And that was the last time I ever saw him. I had to phone our lawyer to phone him, threatening fucking some sort of legal action. And it must have been 2 weeks later, finally, he took the kit back to the rehearsal studio. Weird, eh?
But, you know, me personally, I really didn't like the way he left and lied to us, basically. You know, Rich kind of did the whole join another band, have two running concurrently, not telling us. You know, I remember him not being able to rehearse on a Saturday, and me not understanding why, and only finding out later it's because that's when he was rehearsing with someone else. You know, so it's that annoyed me. It's like, well, you've just affected us by being a devious little fucker. You know, if you were straight up and said, "I want to quit," fine, that's fine. But you actually, literally, you know, affecting us negatively and lying about it. That's what annoyed me. Sort of principle thing. That and the trilby.
Richie went on to join Chapel Club, and auditions continued until everyone knew from the very first meeting that they had found their new drummer, Paul Warren.
The band I was in had disbanded, and I was obviously looking for another band. And there was an advert on, I think it was Gumtree. Loot and Gumtree was where most bands advertised at that point in time. And obviously when I saw the name Dogs, it kind of rang a bell in my memory. So I was like, fair enough. So pretty much from that advert, before I even contacted them about auditions, I decided to kind of look into, you know, to what they were doing or what they had done, stuff like that. And it kind of became apparent pretty quickly that they were obviously, or they had been signed to a major, and then it all kind of went wrong. The website was really dated and hadn't really been updated for a very long time. And then when I looked online on YouTube at a lot of the live sort of performances, the performances that I saw were just, to me, looked like a band that was clinging on for dear life. There wasn't really any energy. It kind of looked like they were going through the motions in it, and it looked like a band that seemed pretty tired and was carrying a lot of sort of baggage around with it. I wasn't a fan or anything like that because I just didn't really pay too much attention to it. But the more I kind of looked into it and listened to the music, I really liked the music. So I listened to the first record, and that's a kick-ass album. And then I listened to the second one, and even though it didn't have the energy or, let's say, the originality of the debut, it still had really good songs on it. So I kind of weighed it up in a way before contacting them, because obviously, having been in the industry and in bands for way over 2 decades before I joined Dogs, I kind of had this understanding that if you were signed to a major label and then you were dropped, 9 times out of 10, people wouldn't want to touch you with a barge pole, you know, because you've kind of got a stigma attached. It's that whole, oh yeah, I remember them, weren't they signed to Ireland? You know, it was that kind of thing that I was worried about. So I decided to get in contact with them from then. And it was Ricky, I think, who I communicated with via email. And I had to send a few demos in, or just old recordings, and they sent me think it was three songs, three new ones. And then I learned Tune to a Different Station, Winston Smith, I think. I learned a few. So there was quite a lot to play when I went along. And when they sent me the new songs and the new demos with obviously the last recordings that they did with Rich, they sounded tired. The songs were nothing like the first album and nothing like the second album, really. So it was all kind of mid-tempo. It wasn't middle of the road, but the songs weren't like, they weren't that great, but there was enough there from my kind of point of view where I thought, you know what, with all of the back catalogue they've got with loads of fantastic tunes, surely if I get the audition, there's loads of songs to write. That's the whole point of being in the band, isn't it? So I wasn't too bothered about the fact that those demos didn't really sound anything like what the band used to. But what I got from those songs was, again, it just sounded like a band that was just knackered, you know? So I learned all of the tunes. The stuff that I'd sent them, they liked. I remember Johnny got back for something like, I'm really liking what I'm hearing, you know, something like that. And we arranged, an audition and to meet up.
Well, I remember auditioning drummers, and there was a few shit ones. But I remember when Paul came in, setting his drums up, he was immediately different from the others. And he set his drums up, and he changed his shoes. He had these Converse with flames coming up. And I thought, oh, right, I see. And when he set his drums up, you know, and put them all in position, and he did it, just went around the kit with the sticks. As soon as he did that, that was it. I was like, this guy fucking knows this shit. You could just tell by the way he did that simple thing, that he had technique and that he had, you know, that he's good. And yes, he was fucking brilliant. Absolute professional. The man, great integrity and brilliant drummer.
I wanted him immediately because he was just fucking unbelievable compared to everyone else. It was just crazy. So when he joined, I was really, really happy about him joining because obviously we'd lost, you know, one of the members and one of my best friends. You know, the friendship, it died immediately when he walked out of the rehearsal room. Not when he stormed out of the rehearsal room, I should say. You know, Rich. And so I was really glad to get, you know, someone else in, but someone who could actually really, really play the drums. I mean, we just sounded better instantly.
So yeah, when I walked into the rehearsal room, everyone came across really nice, you know, and it kind of felt like a proper band, if that makes sense. I think that the relationship between the four members was, you know, it felt strong. You know, you felt like there was an identity. I took my cymbals and my snare and my double kick pedals down and tuned the drum kit because it wasn't tuned very well. Sounded terrible, actually. And we just played. And I think we played Tune to a Different Station first. And we played the tunes that they sent me, Mask of the Red Death, I Want You to Know, Tonight We're Only Friends. Yeah, tuned Winston Smith. I think that was about it, actually. And the whole vibe, it was awesome, you know. It definitely came across like you had a group of people that still had the enthusiasm for the band and still had the enthusiasm to make music. It didn't really feel like there was a weak link. But I was kind of hesitant to say yes straight away, and I actually turned around and said that I'd like to come back and play again because I was just trying to gauge the situation. And what I mean by that is when I was looking into Dogs, when I saw they were looking for a drummer, you know, I came across quite a lot of sort of press photos where there was 10 ton of booze in the picture. And around that time in the music industry, the kind of post-Libertines thing, you know, the Twang and all these other bands, it was kind of like this, I don't know, lads rock. Do you know what I mean? And I was pretty nervous about all the histrionics and the rock and roll bullshit. And what I mean by that is, you know, did partying and pissing it up take priority over performance?
We would have been a much better band if we'd had Paul from the start. There's no doubt about that. Absolute cracking drummer. I think that's one of the reasons, you know, that sort of breathed new life into the band.
It's now 2009. Things have changed for the band, and most now have what they would call normal day jobs. And although this takes up most of their time, there is an active new approach to Dogs, and Paul and Duncan, with the help of a friend, revitalised the website, and Paul takes control of the merchandise. A press pack is also put together by the band with the help of Laura, Ricky's girlfriend at the time, and there is a deliberate step away from the band's old sound, which of course is helped by Paul's drumming style and contributions. The band stick to their strict regime of writing, rehearsing, gigging and recording demos. Most of the demos for early 2009 were recorded at Fortress Studios, and the band paused now and again to post up acoustic versions of new songs for the fans.
2, 3, 4.
Other demos recorded around this time were Into the Garden, Please Don't Let It Be You, This Sorry Scene, When I Threw Stones, Tonight We're Only Friends, and God Is Dead. The band are still going down a storm at live shows, and for much of the year they play sell-out gigs in and around London, such as the 100 Club, but struggling to strike a balance with everyday life is now weighing heavy at times.
Well, it was building up a bit, you know. I didn't enjoy going to rehearsals, started to not like going to rehearsals. It was fine when I was there, you know, hanging out with the lads. You know, we'd had our moment. It didn't work out, and it wasn't going to go anywhere now. I'd gone back to chefing, so I managed to secure the jammiest chefing job in London, which was breakfast and lunch Monday and Friday. So I could rehearse in the evenings, I had weekends to do gigs more too. I didn't. But, you know, it was like becoming like a dark cloud. And me and my missus, who I'd been together with since 2006. So anyway, we'd been together since then, and she'd moved in with me, and we decided to have children. Once we decided that, it didn't take very long for her to get pregnant. And so I remember taking a scan of the baby into rehearsal and showing the lads. basically saying, sorry guys, but I'm out now. Other priorities, and I'm very sorry. That was it.
I basically thought, that's it then, that's Dogs over. At least Dogs as we know it. Yeah, it was big. It was the first huge impact since getting dropped from Ireland.
So we came across this sorry scene, procrastinating, shattered and sorry to dream. He said I wouldn't leave without you. He said he wouldn't leave without you. She was once the oxygen to his pain. Nothing across the candle, he forgets her name. She said I couldn't be without you. You said I couldn't breathe without you. Now it's plain, try not to notice. She don't believe in it anymore. This heart is not where it's holding. So why the actions to be so cold?
Yeah, it was shit. Because, well, for starters, I've known that we've been mates since we were 15 or 16. And he's been there right from the start, obviously. And Luce is a sort of, although he's a total bellend, he's a really, also a really good mate. We joust a lot, me and Luce. We come very close to blows now and then, but we got a lot of history and a lot of love for one another. And there's something seriously solid about Luce, not just physically. I found him on tours to be a real steadying presence for me, because I could tend to go a bit haywire. And also I found it was just nice to have him there, because like now and then I'd get super anxious, I suppose, at times, especially when it looked like we were on the cusp of making it big, and we had big interviews and shit like that. But Luce's character is just chill, and so I felt good having him around. So I was gutted when he left.
Everyone was pissed off about it. Everyone was, gutted, including Paul, who had not been in the band that long, but he really got on with Luce as well. But yeah, it was a sad time, and it was hard.
When Luce left, it just sucked. I was really, really pissed off about it, to be honest, because I really liked him. And also he was an integral part of the band, not only, with obviously the way he sounds, because his backing vocals are over everything and they go really well with Johnny's, and, he had quite a distinct guitar sound, but visually up front, it was important because it still looked like Dogs, because you had the 4 original members up front. I think that in regards to members leaving, you can kind of get away with the drummer because he's up the back. It's not the main focus.
Yeah, that was the end of Dogs for me. I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but look, yeah, that was the end. I remember I actually wanted us to carry on. Well, I floated the idea of us carrying on as a 4-piece at the time, because it felt like the end. I thought, let's start something new. For Dad seem to be getting anywhere as we are, and then the whole thing was like, well, then how we can't gig, we can't keep up with, we can't do the Dog songs anymore because we need 5 people, so we're going to lose all of that. And you know, there was we had conversations about which way to go, and then in the end, I think we, you know, decided that we got to carry on where we left off and get another guitarist. But we almost, it was definitely talked about, you know, do we start something new at that point?
It was annoying after, obviously, me being the new member. Now we were going to have to find another new member, but that's what we did. So we went through rather a painful process of auditioning rhythm guitarists, and we went through quite a few people, and it just wasn't right. It just felt completely and utterly wrong, actually. And I was kind of wary. I think the other guys were, because we didn't really want a fan of the band joining, if that makes sense. You know, we wanted someone to be in it because they wanted to make great music. You know, they wanted to work hard. Not, oh God, I love dogs. I'm going to go and try and join them. You know, that wasn't really what we were looking for.
I was a fan of dogs, like I was a fan of Ocean Colour Scene or Paul Weller. I remember seeing that they had a new drummer, and it was my bass player, Sean, that found out somewhere online that they were after a guitar player. Because at the time, it wasn't like it was, I don't know, obviously the internet's changed so much now, and I don't know where he found out they were after another guitar player. But so when I joined, they were literally doing auditions. I think Johnny did show me the piece of paper of everyone they had, and I want to say they probably had about 10 people they were auditioning. So basically, the first audition, we had 4 tracks we had to go through. I think it was Dirty Little Shop and Winston Smith, and I can't think the other 2. We done the first rehearsal. I remember Duncan saying, "Cool, that was quick." We done that really quick. I thought that was quite a good signing, because I don't know if the others maybe took their time with it maybe. So and then we had a quick little sort of who are your influences, what do you like. When I left that night, Johnny phoned me about, I don't know, 10-30 minutes later saying, "Do you want to come back up next week for another audition?" And I thought, "Oh, that's great." So the second audition, we went through another 4 tracks, and I think we went through a newer song, and I added my own little thing to it, which Johnny liked. And then I went out for a cup of tea. So go and have a cup of tea in the little area at the studio. And then they come out and said, "Look, if you want it, you've got it." Like, and it was fucking great. I remember phoning my wife, saying, your husband's in dogs now.
Kevin came in the room, you know, put his guitar on and pretty much kicked ass straight away. You know, it was tight as hell, and it sounded really good and felt really energetic.
Similarly to Paul, he was a brilliant musician, better than the rest of us. Super tight, like proper session musician style. But he just nailed the tunes straight away. And we didn't feel like we had time to fuck about. And he just got it fast. And apparently we'd met at a festival already, which I vaguely remembered. I think it was Zoo Festival. He'd come up for a chat because he was a fan. And he's a funny bloke. It was good. It was great. It was fun. It was like, shit, maybe there's legs in this band still.
You know, he's a fantastic musician, really solid attitude towards what he does. You know, backing vocals are always in tune, tight as hell, and committed. So he was a good choice. But yeah, didn't feel like dogs to me. It just, the identity just started to sort of fall away.
So Kevin is pretty much thrown in at the deep end, and as well as gigging, Dogs take another trip to Black Barn, and this is to work on new music and to record demo versions of some of the songs that had previously been recorded at Fortress before Luciano had left. Songs recorded here were Long Walk Home, Please Don't Let It Be You, Demons, The Floor Fell Away, Ghost Train, This Sorry Scene, 20 Odd Wrongs, God Is Dead, I Want You to Know, and When I Threw Stones. Dogs now have enough songs to think about recording another album, But although the money from gigging just about covers the recording of demos, it can no way afford the band to record an album.
It was pretty clear that we weren't going to sign a deal to anyone, okay? I mean, just the way it is. And I think that it's the whole damaged goods approach of a lot of people. You know, it's that situation where it's like, Dogs. Oh yeah, they were signed to Ireland and got dropped. Okay. You know, I think you were working against quite a lot, and also the industry was in a bit of a weird place at that point in time. So the whole point of putting the press back together was so we can send it off to independent labels and we can send it off to managers, okay? Because you needed someone to steer the ship. We didn't have anyone steering the ship. So we were basically doing it all ourselves, which I'm not complaining about because that's what you do as a band. But there comes a point where you need someone to steer it and you need financial backing. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, okay? So the press pack that we put together, got all of the photos done for it, got it all designed and printed out. That was sent off to some managers. I remember sending it off to a few independent labels. Never heard anything. We did have one manager come down. This dude used to work for V2. He was involved with Elbow or something. He came down to meet us in rehearsals. He then came down to watch us at the 100 Club, and then he just kind of disappeared. We didn't hear anything else from him. So it was one of those situations where Dogs as let's say a brand and a band was actually in a really good position compared to most, you know, because you had a couple of releases behind you, you had a really, really good cult fan base. And I think at some point there was a discussion of, well, we can kind of do it on our own. And Pledge was in the start of the whole making everything more independent for artists. And what I mean by that is you're not having to rely on a label to dish out X amount of money, which instantly puts you in debt, you know, and then you have the pressure of everything being handled correctly to pay that debt back. So the Pledge was very much, you know, created by the artist for the artist point of view. And the viewpoint of doing something like that was then to be a stepping stone to something bigger, okay? So in regards to the whole Pledge thing, the EP, there was a conversation of giving the fans new music, which was the priority, but then the EP could be used to send out, you know, to labels, to management, because it's new Dogs, it's different. It's not so stuck in the past of its time. So that was the whole viewpoint of why we did the EP, because it would bridge the gap to the third record.
Dogs launched the Pledge and offer some great incentives for the fans to pledge for. The ideas are varied and range from a simple signed drumstick, signed merchandise, signed lyrics and posters, right up to giving away band instruments such as a whole drum kit, and Dogs would even perform a private show for you if you dug deep enough. This was really welcomed by the fans and was a huge success, and soon Dogs had the money to record again, and what better place to do this than Sawmills.
The EP and going to Sawmills were fucking brilliant. That was I would say that's probably, for me, the happiest time of that band was when we went to Sawmills, because we were all together, we had a week with each other, and it was just recording what we were doing.
Recording at Sawmills will probably go down in my memories as probably one of the best weeks of my life, really.
Said I'm leaving. You made me wanna shout.
Well, Sawmills was a safe bet, and I think we wanted to rediscover the sound from that first record, I think, which was inevitably going to change because our sound was changing, what with Kevin Paul. So we got John Cornfield back, who did the first record, and we was nostalgic for Sawmills because it was pretty much the best time of our lives when we recorded Turn Against This Land. So we thought, shit, maybe lightning strikes twice, and went back there. And that was great fun. Great fun. And part of me wanted to give Paul and Kev the same experience that we had. And I think they appreciated that.
He was just really, really focused. We put a serious amount of time into all of the songs, all of the parts. So we went in knowing exactly what we were doing. And so we had to be quite regimented about it. And it would be, the drums would be recorded in the morning. So I'd get the drum part down in the first few hours in the morning. And then from that point onwards, everyone did their thing. And it all came together really well. Elements of it came together when we were in the studio, you know, because it always does when you're starting to listen to the music back, instead of it being in your head, you kind of think of ways or like production ideas. But it was amazing because there wasn't any distractions and we were focused completely on the music. And that, to me, was an indication that if we actually had management that kept everyone in line and told us what we had to do, when, where we had to be and when, the band could have functioned pretty well, you know, and that was the indication of how that week at Sawmills went in regards to the dedication and the focus.
The thing with Paul is we were playing with a click track and he was massively on the click track, so he really didn't have any comping to do, you know, any mistakes to rectify. There were none there. Whereas on the first album with Rich, the drums just took forever because John Cornfield had to build the drums himself. But he knew where things went, but Rich was so out of time on the click. He had to move things accordingly and it took forever. But you know, with Paul, it was a completely different thing. But it was and the same with Kevin. And we all went down there and did what I believe was a really, really good job. And it was just a lot of fun with a lot of good guys.
Songs recorded here were Long Walk Home, The Floor Fell Away, This Sorry Scene, and When I Threw Stones. These songs have previously been demoed, but 2 new songs appear on the EP, and they were The Cost of Loving and Now the Rain Falls. But some songs that were being demoed and played live around that time didn't make it onto the EP.
But it was 20 Odd Wrongs and Please Don't Let It Be You that, from fans' point of view, they would have liked to have on the EP. But from our point of view, and this is something that needs to be sort of highlighted, I think we wanted to put a series of songs together that showed that the band was kind of evolving. I think we wanted to try to touch a different kind of ground, and I think we did that. You know, I think like when I listen to the EP now, musically it's interesting, and that's when I started to realise that Dogs started to become a band that you would stand and listen to rather than jump around punching each other in the face. Do you know what I mean by that? Like musically, it kind of, I think it stepped up musically, but it might not have had that kind of intense energy that the earlier stuff had.
See my face
We Are the Dogs EP is released on the 31st of May 2010. Musically speaking, both the band and the fans are very happy with We Are the Dogs, but unbeknownst to the fans, there were problems with the handling and release of this EP, and tensions are beginning to rise within the band.
We didn't have anyone to release it, okay? So the money that was made from the pledge, that needed to go into recording, artwork, all of the incentives from the screen prints and various other things that we purchased to obviously give away. This was all coming out of the money from the pledge. So if you look upon it as kind of like a record deal, when you get signed, that money is there and it's all allocated for certain things. We didn't have that. We had a lump sum and it's like, okay, pledge, take a cut. A cut goes to 2 charities that Johnny picked. Okay, so that's a chunk already. The recording, that was a huge chunk. The artwork, that was a huge chunk. Incentives, huge chunk. No money for radio plugging. No money for press, PR, people to take it and review it in the NME or whatever. None of that. So there was nothing. So it wasn't handled in any way, shape or form. We released it on our own label because no one was going to put it out. The EP, the whole point of the EP was to bridge the gap between the second album and what would have been a third album. That's why we wanted an EP. But the frustration came because personally, we could have recorded a record because we worked so fast. We could have done 10, 12 tunes in a week easy. But putting that aside, the guy from Pledge that was supposed to be advising us said nothing about our choice to do an EP. And then once it was finished, he turned around and said, well, you know, there's not much mileage in doing EPs. An album would have been better. And I just found that fucking ridiculous because it's like, well, if you're advising us, why don't you turn around and say, listen, lads, hold off, work on more music and put a record out, you know? And I couldn't actually believe that. It was like, what the fuck? And then this is when the kind of communication within the band started to fall away because Johnny was going, well, our book time at Sawmills and we record an album. And it's like, yeah, but we haven't got an album. We need to, because we'd already put the EP out, so we couldn't put those songs on a record. We had to basically see what we had left over. Was it going to be good enough to be put on a record? And then we need to write more songs. So the idea of booking Sawmills when we haven't even got a pledge in place, we can't do another pledge because we haven't got any incentives to sell. The whole thing was ludicrous because it was like, well, we haven't got a record. We haven't got anything to be able to do another pledge. So why the hell are we booking time at Sawmills, which needs to be paid for, to do a record that we haven't got written? So it was like, it was really nonsensical. And it was at that point where things just started to feel a little strained because it was like, what the fuck's going on? Do you know what I mean?
The idea was to do the EP, and in my head, I thought more would come of it. I thought, you know, we'd have some sort of professional management come in that could see that Dogs could sell tickets and could sell out these venues. We were a really good band and we still had good songs. What they said to me was, we want to get bigger. We don't want to stick to where we are. We need to move on, and we're trying to think like bigger. I don't want to say arena rock or stadium rock, but we need to think bigger if we want to get bigger, so to speak. But we've done the EP. We've done like I think we didn't do enough gigs. I think we should have done more gigs. Not saying that I'm right or anything, it's just my opinion. I think we should have done a few more gigs, but I don't know if my naivety was thinking someone would really pick it up. I think I was a bit kind of gobsmacked that you could sell out, say, the Underworld and have all this love from the fan base, but kind of no one wants to touch it. You know, no one would want to, you know, I thought we'd get a record deal. I thought we'd have a management come in and say, look, you guys could, you know, if you sorted this out, we could really make it bigger. But that's the industry for you, I guess, really.
it was all, in my mind, it was very much a stepping stone thing. You gave fans new music, and it was a stepping stone to potentially get a publishing deal, a European release, or whatever. None of that happened. All it really was, it just ended up being something that the fans could buy, which is awesome, you know, because we all felt that they should have the new music from the new lineup, you know. But in regards to release, it wasn't a release because there was no one behind it, you know. And I think that there was kind of in-house stuff with Pledge, but again, I think that everything, all of the minor things that came out of the EP, getting it on obscure radio stations or getting whatever, was more to do with the previous reputation of Dogs rather than anyone in Pledge actually making stuff happen, you know. And that's pretty much the brutal truth about it. And when you actually think about what was achieved doing the EP, very little.
The handling of this release is not the only cause of concern, and looking deeper into the situation, it's fast becoming clear that there were other issues surrounding this release.
The artwork for the EP was just fucking shit. And I know that probably sounds really harsh, but it was just terrible.
The problems arose from the design company that were given the job. Although Dogs wanted the fans to partly be the focus of this release, they felt that this concept was taken a bit too far, and perhaps not enough thought had gone into the project.
I remember having a discussion about it, and Johnny's like, well, you know, let's just, don't want to bother them, you know, I trust them, and we go with their vision. So then off the back of the artwork, we got those really just dull black and white We're the Dogs t-shirts stuff. So visually, everything that was associated with the EP was toss.
They felt the final look was not at all in keeping with the band release, and was sadly more akin to that of a recruitment poster. A random fan was chosen for the front cover, and to make things worse, Johnny failed to proof the artwork that was sent to him, and as a result of that, parts were printed upside down, and a number of the names for the fans that had pledged were spelt wrong.
You know, so we made music, good music, that I felt proud of, and it's like we wrapped it up in a turd. You know, it was like, it was just the story of the band that everything's right, and then just when at the crucial point everything's wrong. You know, other members might not know or understand what I mean by that, but it was just one of those things where there were loads of thought were put into one thing, and hardly any thought was really put into the other.
Load of bollocks. I kicked myself for this because I took my eye off the ball. I used to be, you see, I was so invested in everything, every last detail for the first album. I mean, like I've already said, it was part of my bargaining position to sign with Island to get heavyweight vinyl and gatefold sleeves. And I just, the artist in me came out, and I was just poured all over the artwork. And then, I don't know, so yeah, I was sidetracked after the second album. I just took, like I say, took my eye off the ball, and that's not so. But also songwriting and just everything. My full focus wasn't on what we were doing, and it should have been. I don't know where it was, but yeah, it ended up just looking like dog shit. With some pictures upside down in the middle of it. It was embarrassing. But, you know, the tunes stand up, so that's the most important bit.
As part of the deal for the artwork, the company also said they would come to the Pledge release and make a film of the show and do fan interviews as part of the whole package. But when Johnny called them that night, they informed him that they were not coming, and it was only after a very angry phone exchange that they relented and actually turned up.
They were just a bunch of hipsters, you know, that basically it sounds good, you know, when they're out drinking their Pims to go, oh yeah, we did the artwork for a rock band. That's how it came across to me. They didn't give a fuck about the band or the music, and you can see that in the vision they had for the artwork. And I know that might offend people, but it did that. Well, it's not as offensive as making and putting the effort into great music and then it just being dressed up in a sock, basically.
The design company made a film totally focused on the fans at the launch gig, and it's almost incomprehensible that no footage of Dogs performing the EP was ever included or even filmed that night. But again, looking back, was this a blessing in disguise?
So the night of the show, because one of the things that, or the pledges or the incentives, was that people paid, to be able to come to the sound check and have a beer and stuff, and then after the show they could come and have a beer in the dressing room. So we had sort of pledges at the sound check and stuff, and doing all that was really cool. But in regards to the actual gig itself, I know that everyone obviously enjoyed it because everyone always had good nights at the show, but it's like certain members of the band couldn't control their intake prior to the gig in regards to alcohol consumption, and the performance just wasn't very good. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everyone should be sitting in a circle before we go on stage singing Kumbaya and drinking mint tea. I don't mean that. People have a shot or they have maybe a bottle of beer to loosen up, but when you're drinking excessively before you go on stage, you're not going to perform very well. And that actually kind of hindered, for me personally, the performance of the Pledge release.
I mean, in hindsight, I would have done things differently now. I mean, I read Slash's autobiography, and in that he said, I don't care what anyone does before or after a gig, as long as at the gig you deliver, you do your job. And at the top, before I left, we were having sort of discussions about, how much people was drinking and whatnot before going on. Because, you get to a gig and you'd meet some of the fans and they'd buy you a beer each. And by the time you get on stage, you've had like 6 to fucking 10 beers or whatever. And we were trying to be as professional as we could. But in a way, looking back now, I think, because I was quite influenced by, we was all sort of chatting and this isn't right or that isn't right. There was a lot of holes in the boat. And that was one of the other things that made me kind of leave, was like, well, we're rehearsing 3 times a week, and then we get to a gig, we've had like 6 to 10 beers, and then we're going on a bit half car. But then, some of the fans quite like that, I think. Some of the fans quite like it if you've got beer in your hand and you're sort of getting into the swing or the mood of it. But I think now I think I would sort of try and just do my own thing and just crack on with it. But, as I say, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
For both Paul and Kevin, it's almost as though they have experienced the highs and then they're on the receiving end of the all too quick lows that seem to plague Dogs. And looking back, it's clear that there was definitely a turning point in the relevance of Dogs outside of their fiercely loyal fan base.
So basically, we were at Johnny's flat, and we had all of the EPs. They'd come fully packaged, so we were signing them, and we were all there, kind of signing them and having a laugh and like, yeah, this is awesome, man, this rocks. And then, just by chance, the Cost of Loving came on XFM, and it was just like, that's us on the radio. And look, we're signing the EP, and we're on the radio, man. This is awesome. And it sounded really good. And there was this kind of buzz, in the room. And then at the end of the song, it was John Kennedy. He goes, oh yeah, that was a new song, Cost of Loving by Dogs. Yeah, they fell foul of the fashion police, quite a long time ago. And it was just this, there was this silence. I could tell by Johnny, he kind of had a slightly hurt look on his face, and he's kind of like, what does he mean by that? And I was just like, no, it's, fuck that. It's like, it was on the radio, it sounded cool. But that, that kind of almost confirmed one of my anxieties, which is like, oh yeah, I remember Dogs, yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, even just from that, I'm like, what are we really working with here? What reputation are we really working with here? But that was kind of, in many ways, that encapsulated the story of the band, because you were like, yeah, it was this massive excitement, and then you were like, and that happened a lot. And I think that, yeah, that just kind of magnifying that feeling, really.
The true story.
It's quite shocking to look back and see that after the release of the EP on the 14th of June 2010, the band only performed one promotional gig at York Fibbers, and the very last pledge show that fans had paid for during the pledge to make this recording. The gig at York Fibbers receives a bad review too, and this seems aimed solely at Johnny's performance, which is reported as half-hearted, lacking energy, enthusiasm or passion. It's presumed that the gig in Birmingham the previous night had been a heavy one, and it goes on to say that although there were glimpses of vocal talent, they were far too few and far between, as Johnny seemed to wade through the performance rather than really getting into it and giving it his all. The reviewer goes on to say that the band musically were impeccable and fantastic, but again at the end it's remarked that the band were lacking one crucial element that night, which was a frontman. I asked Johnny about this gig and whether he thought he was overdoing things.
Yeah, possibly. So the times where I'd overindulged before going on stage, before I paid for, there was one supporting the Cribs, or not, I think we just had a double bill with the Cribs once. I think me and Richie were indulging in certain things, and but that was a lesson learned, right? Didn't go very well, so we never pushed it to that extent. But I think the sort of general level of care that I was giving to the music and the band and the performances were waning. I actually all of a sudden remember, this is hard to say really, but on occasions I got bored. I literally got bored on stage. I wasn't in the best frame of mind for a while. I wasn't very happy, and isn't that awful? Feeling like you've got to stamp your foot and fucking. I'd never felt like I had to fake it or feign anything ever, because the music, just fucking lyrics burst out of me before, it was just in my blood. But it wasn't a good sign, thinking, feeling, reflecting upon yourself being on stage, literally having the thought, I'm on stage and I'm singing a song, what's next? Like you do, when you're in the moment, that those thoughts don't occur to you, but they started to. Yeah, that's weird ones. So I didn't want it to be like that. I didn't want to let the rest of the band down. So you just think, right, fuck, I'm going through a patch. Let's just roll with it. So maybe I would have a couple too many jars beforehand to try and get myself buzzy for it. Something to do with that.
So once we played all of the gigs, which were arranged to promote the EP, we kind of found ourselves back in the rehearsal studio, not really knowing exactly what to do next, to be honest. It was like, everything felt like an anticlimax. So the only thing that we could really do was continue to write music. And I think it was definitely this point in time when Kevin was starting to get a little bit tired of the whole thing. And it was during this period where I think it was Not While I Breathe, Let It Burn, Fly Like Eagles. There was actually another tune that we did. I can't remember the fucking name. It was about, I can't remember the actual name of it, but what it was, we knocked a few tunes together with Kevin basically and demoed them. And because the Christmas show, we had like a laptop, and when we were playing Red, or when we were in rehearsal and we were playing Red, we had this idea of kind of merging Christmas hymns and stuff into the song. So Duncan would trigger it from a laptop, and it kind of added a different dimension to the sound. So that whole writing period started off kind of continuing this sort of rock sound, but then Duncan started to bring in like loops and various things that he'd experimented with on the laptop, and I thought that was awesome. I was really open to kind of fusing almost like loops and electronics in with guitar music. Johnny was, there is a little bit of footage of us messing around with it, and yeah, Ricky was just going with it. But I remember a distinct a distinct incident where Kevin wasn't really into the idea of adding like any form of electronics, because it kind of wasn't necessarily proper music. And I know that at a time when tensions were pretty high anyway, that kind of, that didn't really help. That didn't really help the overall sort of vibe of the band. And it was, so once we'd recorded that set of songs, I think it became clear that, Kevin just didn't want to do it anymore.
Look, I'm quite traditional, really. Even with my own stuff, and don't get me wrong, I've written some shit and I've written some all right stuff, but I'm quite traditional. I like drums, bass, guitars. The bands I'm into is what I kind of want to write towards, like Oasis, Paul Weller, Ocean Colour Scene, Dogs, The Jam. But they were going in a sort of more bigger sounding direction. And sometimes I was thinking, I don't know if, because when we played the older stuff, obviously the older stuff is what the bands knew. And when you're hearing something I guess it's better because you know it. But with some of the newer stuff, it kind of dipped. Not all of it, some of it was good, but like some of it would dip. And I don't know if maybe they were going too far away from what made them so good, if that makes sense.
The reason that he gave us that he wanted to leave was it was just costing him so much money to travel up from Kent in a big van, because he was driving a van, and it cost him so much money in diesel that it was, cleaning him out. And I don't, the impression I got was that he didn't want to leave. We lost a really good member, and I mean, the writing wasn't going that good, and it wasn't going as well as we'd hoped. And like I say, it was like a sinking ship.
I was working down in Bexhill, Hastings, driving all day, going back home to Folkestone, getting showered and changed and whatnot. And then we were rehearsing in Mile End in London. So I'd then drive to Mile End. And we were doing that 3 times a week. And at the beginning, obviously, it's new and exciting. And then after, obviously 6 months, I mean, they did at one point, they gave me some cash. They said, look, here's some cash to pay for fuel. And which was lovely of them, do you know what I mean? And the thing is, the rehearsals were paid by the gigs they would do. And obviously, I was as I say, a massive fan of Dogs beforehand. And I'm still a massive fan of Dogs. And I remember being a fan thinking, God, they don't hardly have a gig. That was my view before I joined. And obviously, with a band like that, you usually do a tour because it's more cost effective. You hire a van, you can go around the country, one little hit. But the problem with me, I had a regular job, and I've got a wife. So if I use my holiday for a tour, it's like I can't go on holiday with my wife. And I had my job, and I was getting knackered in time because I was going up to London 3 times a week. I did quit my job at one point because I thought if I quit my job, I could have more time. I start doing guitar lessons and doing some more gigs. But I say this is the music industry. You're trying to make time to do more music, but obviously money's crucial to pay bills and stuff and your bread and butter. And that's basically what happened. That's the reason why I left, is because I was like, man, I can't financially do this no more. I need to have a regular job. And if I lived in London, it would have been fine, I think. If it was like a half hour to just get to the rehearsal room, it's not really an issue. But because I was travelling, an hour and a half, and then on the way back home from rehearsal, it was when the Olympics were going on. and you have the get to night time when I'm leaving, and the getting out of London was a fucking nightmare.
It's unfortunate because it just it kind of petered out. It didn't go out with a big bang. It just kind of slowly crashed. But yeah, Lou's got out at the right time, I'd say.
We had the Christmas gig, we had the New Year's Eve gig booked, and he agreed that he would stay on and do those shows, which just from that point of view, that was really difficult because, you know, the Christmas gig at Dingwalls was absolutely rammed and everyone was going nuts. And you had this kind of bittersweet feeling that the band's basically hanging on a thread. So that was just a kind of horrible feeling, to be honest. And then Kevin's last show was the New Year's Eve gig that we did in Wimbledon, and where we were on at like 7 o'clock, and there were literally like 2 people there, including the bar staff. And from where I was sort of standing, that, you know, that pretty much summed up the whole situation that the band was in. You know, just ending up playing to no one on New Year's Eve at 7 o'clock.
So Kevin's stint in Dogs lasts for a little over 1 year, and by the end of 2010, Dogs are again reduced to a 4-piece.
At the start of 2011, we obviously were a 4-piece, and it was kind of like a critical time, really, in regards to making a decision about what we wanted to do. And in hindsight, I think that when Kevin left, I probably should have left as well. But there was still something inside of me that didn't want to do that. You know, I still felt that there was good music to be made. So we had a meeting. Remember, we went to like a pub in Shoreditch, sat down, had a meeting, agreed that we wanted to continue. We even had a conversation about continuing as a 4-piece, which was a conversation that we had actually prior to Kevin joining, if I remember. But in all honesty, I didn't want to continue as a 4-piece because it would have pretty much meant starting from the bottom of the ladder, you know, playing in front of no one on a Monday night at the Dublin Castle. And there was no way. After all of the years that I'd been involved with bands of music, I wasn't prepared to do that. So we kind of spoke about wanting to write more music, kind of recording it differently, taking a new approach to writing. And I think by the time we'd spoken, the general consensus was, let's just stay as a 4-piece, write as much music as we can, and then at a later date when it feels right, we'll start looking for another guitarist, get all of the old material, you know, rehearsed up, try and mold and mesh in, you know, the songs that we would have written as a 4-piece, and then go at it again. So that was kind of the consensus. So yeah, we started writing what would become the Fly Like Eagles mini album almost straight away. And the writing process and all of the ideas came together really easily, thinking back. And in many ways, it was much easier to write as a 4-piece than a 5-piece. And I'm not too sure why that was, but it just came. Everything came really flowing quick. Everyone was open to all of the ideas, you see. So initially it felt great. So all those songs that were on the mini album, we pretty much recorded ourselves. There were a few fuck ups along the way because we decided to try to record the drums directly onto the laptop in the rehearsal room on our own. And it kind of turned out that the mics weren't really positioned right, and overall the drums just kind of sounded shit. So that's when we got Steve Good on board, who was a guy that worked at the rehearsal studio, but he'd recorded bands and they had a mini studio there. So the whole Fly Like Eagles thing was really as DIY as you could get, but we wanted to keep it that way. So for me, the initial thing started off quite positively, but then as time went by, I started to really just feel completely disillusioned with the whole thing. I think deep down I realized that I genuinely had enough at that point of not only being in the band, but also playing drums, you know, and being involved in music in any way. So I started to kind of go on a downward spiral with my mood. And I didn't really care about the drums for those songs, which is a huge thing to admit, because, you know, the drums have always meant the world to me. So halfway through that process, I was just like, fuck, man, I just can't do this anymore. You know, I was miserable. I definitely was bringing the other guys down. I just wasn't very nice to be around.
I was in Chiswick, in a pub in Chiswick. And I got on with Paul. You know, we used to talk a lot. I used to go around to his house a lot and what have you. And we used to meet up quite a lot outside the band. And he rung me I was in Chiswick in a pub on the river with my then girlfriend. And he just said to me, Rick, I can't do this anymore. I'm leaving the band. I'm really sorry, but I just can't do it anymore. And it was like, you know, I mean, I remember feeling, oh God, that's it, the band's done. And I rung Johnny and he was like, yeah, well, you know, it was inevitable really. So, it just, yeah, he rung me, he left the band, and that's when the band split.
Oh, fuck. When Paul, I definitely checked out. I remember like when we did the Fly Like Eagles stuff, I can remember, you know, not being in the control room a lot of the time when they were mixing, which is I'd always be there. You know, I was kind of, I knew it was the end. I was starting to think, you know, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? So in a way, when Paul said I can't do it anymore, I was like, oh, thank fuck I didn't have to do it, you know, because it was like I knew I couldn't carry on personally, but I also knew I could never be the one to say, oh, I could never quit, you know. So in a way, it was a bit of a relief. I think we just ran out of steam.
Oh my God. Well, like the tumbling like dominoes, right? What was I aware? No, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. I didn't really think about anything like that, but I think we were all just feeling pretty tired of having to build something to find it burned to the ground the following day, and then, you know, keep rebuilding. How many times can you do that? I do. Do you know what? I do. Despite me saying that my brain was tuned to a different station, I do remember feeling like I was like in the middle of a sort of if the rest of the band were on ropes, so like I was just trying to keep everyone together to the bitter end. It never occurred to me to like say, right, that's it, it's over. I mean, you know, as much as I felt despondent and sidetracked, it's all I flipping knew. It's all I knew. So I, you know, I was desperately trying to hang on to something because I just couldn't think what I was going to do without it. So, yeah, it was tricky.
So what happened from that point was it was clear that the band was gonna break up. So we were like, you know what? Let's just finish off recording these songs and we just give them away for free. Okay, because there wouldn't have been any point in putting the effort into the tunes, which were all good, strong songs. There wouldn't have been any point in putting that time into just have it on a CDR gathering dust, you know, on your shelf. So we agreed, let's make it the best that we can, and we give it away for free. to the fans, and obviously then announce that the band is coming to an end.
So very early in 2011, Fly Like Eagles was released through Dog's Facebook page. Dog states that this record is the product of trouble and turmoil, and that during the recording of this they levitated. They go on to say that this is not only the first record that they have recorded as a lo-fi DIY job, but it's also the first record they have recorded as a 4-piece, though Kevin does appear on the title track, Fly Like Eagles. They end with the message to say that they are proud to give this to the fans for nothing, and in true Dog style, they sign off with "fuck the fucking system." Johnny waits until the 21st of June to announce that Dogs have sadly split, but with this sad news comes more free download releases for the fans. B-Sides 1 and 2, which as the title suggests were the B-sides and extra tracks to all the Dogs releases, and God Is Dead Parts 1 and 2, which were all the demos recorded from late 2008 to 2010. 5 years later, in 2016, Weekender decided to release the live show that was recorded way back in 2007, and Still Believe in My Generation becomes Dog's final release.
Every night I saw her, I would cave in my cold ineffable her. Was debilitating me, you remain unconcerned. That stripped me to the wire, and you smile while I grimly expire. Oh, save your breath, 'cause I won't suffer anymore. I see a light burning both ends. Those sullen eyes burst into flame. I see a fire creeping under the wire. I see a light, won't let it go out again. On the floor by the jukebox lay my still beating heart. A gasping fish on the floor of the ship. You obliterated me. Can I dispense with concern on this event horizon? Can I replace your embrace by despising everyone you touch? 'Cause I won't suffer anymore. I see a light burning both ends. Those sullen eyes burst into flame. I see a fire creeping